Welcome to Quemby Podcast. Get ready for an exciting journey as we explore the latest and greatest in innovative technologies, open source tools, and visionary insights. We'll take you on a captivating adventure as we uncover stories, discuss ideas, and connect with leaders changing the game and shaping our digital future.
Your life. Awesome. We are here in another chapter of the Quemby podcast, where we always bring the best of the minds across the globe, because we are not only on Latin America, we're going across the globe, and you're gonna see in a minute why I'm saying that. But this is interesting. Today's chapter is very interesting. I'm looking forward to it, because we're gonna combine what we know today as outsourcing with tech, which is a huge market, and how those two shape and kind of interject together. But before I introduce today's guest, I really want to share a really quick story of how we met. I was on Web Summit Rio, basically on my booth, introducing Quemby and talking about Quemby. And someone come to me and say, "Hey, what's going on? What's up? How you doing?" It's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I remember him because we have some exchange through LinkedIn, but it was we talk to people every single day. It seemed like him, but at that point, it sounded like this random meeting someone, to the point that we actually connected and create this really good synergy about what he's doing, what he believes, what he's trying to bring to the market, how he had tried to grow. So I'm really looking forward to see his thought about outsourcing, tech market, how he actually is now coming from in Latam. I know that you're in Uruguay, right, Hans?
Yeah, exactly.
But your story actually is quite interesting. So let me take that segue and let me give you a chance to introduce yourself, Hans, to the audience. And please, who's Hans?
And yeah, of course. Thank you very much for the opportunity of having this conversation and unpacking great ideas together. So something really funny when we met was that we spoke all the time in English, and at the end we realized that we were all Latinos, like speaking around, and we switched back to Spanish immediately. But I think that also made you stick on my mind, and probably I stuck on you due to that exchange, but it was funny. So Hans here, I'm the managing director at HNdevs, and I run the commercial aspects for a company called Alabama Solutions. So as a really quick roundup of what we do, as Angel said, is outsourcing. It's outsourcing to develop products by Alabama Solutions, and then by our business unit, HNdevs, what we do is we do staff augmentation. That's basically outsourcing talent for companies that have an immediate need of growing dynamically, let's say 3 months, 6 months, 9 months engagement. We will be there to provide them with the talent so they can grow your team. You can grow your team dynamically and tackle that one feature that you need to develop, but you don't want to hire somebody permanent. And that's when we come in, when it makes sense to work with us. Also, some people think that it's a good way to utilize staff augmentation to diminish cost. I don't want to stand on the side of the cost. I think that we have far more value to bring to the market as Latin American engineering companies than just cost efficiency. But of course, that's one of the aspects of why people look up for it. Yeah.
Actually, that's the perfect segue to my I would like to kind of address some of the myth, right? Because you bring one to the table, like, we always look into outsourcing for cost efficiency, right? I have my opinions, and but before I share mine, I would like to understand where you're coming from, because I agree with you on that baseline that you put. Like, yeah, cost efficiency is one area, but it's not really what makes the outsourcing the difference, right? So where are you coming from on that side? I really want to know your thoughts on that.
So there are various aspects on it, and cost efficiency is the core or the mother reason for outsourcing. So during the 1930s, the Brits started going to India to find economical labor, and that way they could actually extract their iron in a cheaper way and build the railways throughout the world. They did also that with the textile industry, so basically to produce mostly cotton they went to India as well. And then during the 90s, 1998, that's when this idea sparked on the head of people. The thing was that the age was going to change. So 1999 to 2000, computers were programmed bitwise. And what was going to happen when we hit a year that cannot be computed the same way we had been doing it for like 30 years? So the whole industry thought computers were going to fail. And that the only way to actually do it was to manually hard code all that. And it wasn't feasible in the US because of the cost of hiring somebody to do it, and there wasn't so many availability of engineers that could actually do it. So they basically packed the computer softwares into hardcore drives, disks, and they sent it to India, and there they basically hardcore that and they bring it back, and now we have computers that can actually compute in years like 2000, 2001, 2002, and that avoided the collapse of what we now know as computing system. But that's when we get the conception of price on it, because they sent it there because the gap between the real wage in India and the real wage in the US made feasible for those companies to reprogram all those hard codes and all those hours that needed to be put in to make it something achievable. And that's when we get the conception that price is the main driver in staff augmentation. I think the industry had changed throughout the last years, and we have seen that we can bring much more to the table than just price and cost efficiency. And just to give you an idea, I think that nearshore, for example, is a great example. So nearshore, I would say everything in Latin America, we are on the same time zone. We can provide, you don't have to be chasing the sun to get feedback on your development. You have the chance of collaborating with minds that culture-wise are pretty narrow, pretty close to what is the culture in the US, because we live in an occidentalized world. And then on the other hand, education has gone a really, really, really long way in many countries in South America. And I want to put a shout out for Uruguay in that sense. In Uruguay, we have public education as in school, as in high school, and also at universities, and also master degrees are strongly subsidized by states. So what that generates is that you get a lot of people that is actually really academically developed, and that's why we have a really strong pool of engineers. And that doesn't happen only in Uruguay, but it happens in a lot of regions in South America. So that's what we have to offer. We have a countries that have a different real wage necessity, so you don't have to actually pay for 180k to 260k a year to an engineer. You can actually do 42 to 62% more economical, and we can still pay those engineers to have a great life quality, and you can still get great minds because they went through an academical process that enabled them to have the same or even sometimes higher level of education in terms of the capabilities they have to be great engineers and to think outside the box and develop code that is worth to be deployed.
You know, that's very interesting because last night I was having a conversation with a couple of friends, and we were discussing about outsourcing. The topic came up just like randomly, right? And what we're discussing is like, well, they were talking about the cost part, which is like everyone knows, like you just mentioned, and thank you for that reference about like how the British, back in the days, basically leverage India labor into doing this, headways on the not only on the technology and the computer side, but also on the in the industry of the transportation. But the interesting part that I saw is, at least in my experience, is that what I found in Latin America is that what you just mentioned, there's a lot of talent, huge talent. Unfortunately, the opportunity is what is not there, because of course that everything has to be balanced. Like the opportunity on the market, like companies using new technologies, it needs to go a little up, and that's kind of where I would like to go in the second section to see your thoughts on that. But on the demand side, which is the people, it's like there's a lot of talent. It's just lack of opportunity. So, and also I found that I was able to find people that were willing to actually do the work and learn new technology, which is like interesting because you might think like, oh, in the US you will find the people that knows the top technology only. Actually, in my case, which is Kubernetes, it was the other way around. I was able to find people in Latin America that were willing to put the efforts to learn it, to put the hours, get it done. So
And it's
become
not an easy technology, man. And it's not an
exactly,
easy technology.
which is the interesting part. So it was not just about cost; it was about like the willingness to actually do the work, and that's kind of what I think is it goes beyond cost or economical part. It goes also into the mindset, like they want to get to the next step. With that said, so how you see the other side of the realm, right? Because there's also we need to balance that um, opportunity in terms of the companies. Like, have you seen companies upgrading their tech stack, because that's basically your niche, right? So you providing them with that developer availability.
Yeah, so two things. So one, coming back to what you say before, that is really interesting. So I like to see the Americas as a whole environment or ecosystem. And as you perfectly said, there is a mindset here in Latin America of hardworking people. First of all, I love that. The second thing is there is a mindset of people that is looking forward to evolve in their career, evolve in their path, to provide for their families, and to grow personally, which is brilliant to see. And the third thing is that there is a gap in the US market in which there is a necessity for engineers that are capable to develop complex technology. And as you will say, no more, you expect that you will be able to find it. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And when that doesn't happen is when you have to have a mindset, a global mindset. And I think that although the pandemic hit negatively on our industry because it, it, it drive the venture capitals to overland, and it drive the interest rates to go up. We know many things that happened after the pandemic that impacted the industry. What I see positive from this change of paradigm is that now people see the world in a more global way. So when you connect the ecosystem, you understand that the only difference between South America and North America is the real wage. That's the only difference. How many money do you need to be able to have a decent life in the US, and how many money do you need to have a decent life in South America? So if you connect them all the way around, it's a virtuous circle, because you can actually go find the talent that you're lacking in South America and take it to the US to propel innovation. And you will find people that are looking forward to learn new technologies and to enclose that gap more and more and more. Just an interesting number that I was just seeing yesterday that McKinsey put out is that for 2024, the expectancy of expenditure in what is staff augmentation only in Latin America is $15.92 billion. That speaks a lot about how this industry is growing, but not only that, how would that be performing in the next year. So for 2035, we expect to have a 62% growth over those numbers. So I can tell that the Americans are realizing about the potential that this talent pool market cap that we have in Latin America can offer them. And the Latin Americans are understanding that they have to keep expanding on education, and they have to keep expanding on their communicational skills. And I mostly will say, learn how to speak a fluent English. And that way we can actually connect the Americas. And that's something that we really strive for. And it's a message that we look forward to put in the market. So see America as Americas and Americas as a full ecosystem. Does that make sense?
It does. And actually, I want to touch upon a word that you've been repeating at least 10 times, which is education. And we agree 100% on that. Something that we focus so much is, and maybe like I said, we do it more in a localized way, because people should give back in the way that they know how to give back, and we do it through community and helping the community to learn these new technologies like the cloud technologies and Kubernetes. And we do that because we strongly believe that if you have an educated community, you opening opportunities. But I'm interested to learn about your thoughts on that, because you go a little more than that. We focus on one technology, but you focus on multiple technologies. You're talking about multiple stacks. You're talking about English. Can you expand on the education side?
I love that. And yes, definitely, let's expand on that. So, first of all, I think the key here is education. So, I come from a background that's not specifically technology, although I certified myself as a product manager, and I've been growing through as a more like a technical salesperson. It is not my specific background. So, and I can speak about education in general basis, from the capability to do business development to the capability to actually craft effective code. As I said, I always like to have engineers on my team that can craft code that is worth to be deployed. And the only way to achieve that is through education. So what we are doing in terms of education is, and actually, let me go back. So on Friday, I was meeting the CEO from Quantec. Is a huge company here in Uruguay that accounts for actually a group of 6 companies. They are all spread around Latin America and have a brilliant team. And the only reason why they haven't grown more is because they see that they don't have enough available talent to keep growing, and their fear is that they will commit to their clients in the US, in Israel, in the UK, and then they won't be able to deliver due to the quantity of talent required. And what I say is that the problem is that you're looking to the ecosystem as Uruguay, instead of looking at the whole ecosystem of Latin America, and what we can foster in terms of education for keep growing that ecosystem. So what we are doing in order to keep this ecosystem growing is, first of all, we're forging alliances with educational companies. So call it, for example, Color House, Udemy, Coursera. We're working on those. We already achieved one with Color House, so we can offer a considerable discount over the discount that is already offered. I think it goes like, if you apply the coupon that we provide you with a code that we will give you, you get 85% of discount over the total of the full tuition. And we do that because we truly believe that as much as we foster education in Latin America, let's call it for full stack development, let's call it for UX UI design, let's call it for whatever you want to do, the opportunities that we will have will be, first of all, more people that will be qualified to work on those markets. The second thing, it will make that people become more competitive within each other. And I don't think that competition within individuals is negative. I think that fosters greatness. So we want to have them actually develop themselves and looking around and say, hey, I'm doing better than the guy aside me, and that's not negative. That guy will need to push forward to be able to reach me, and that will generate a virtuous circle in which Latin Americans will keep growing. So that's what we are doing. We are enabling them with education. Now we're looking for a partner, and if there is somebody out there listening to this that offers a tailored opportunities for companies so they can actually grow their English capability and communicational capability in their development teams, we're open to listen to proposals. Something that we really take under consideration is that English is not just a language, but it is a culture. So when I look for somebody to work in an American client, and I'll talk about the vetting process that we have for the talent in a moment, but one of those steps of the 6 steps vetting process is communicational skills, and that's mostly at the end of the curve when we are about to present the candidates to the client, and that's usually carried by me. What we analyze is in Spanish, in German, or in English, the capability to communicate. But I don't look forward to see only syntax and grammar. That's always important. Don't get me wrong. That's always important. But you can have a great syntax, you can have a great grammar. But how capable are you to transmit an idea that resonates with an audience and produce emotion to drive innovation and generate commitment and agreement to your idea. That's what I look forward in my engineers, and I think that's something that we should be fostering. Not only the capability to speak the language, but to understand the cultural background of that language and the capability to effectively communicate on that language. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, effective communication is the top one thing that I always strive. Because for me, when you're talking about effective communication, it hits all those points, and also it means that when you communicate something, the recipient actually understood the same thing that you were saying, which is actually
Exactly.
some of the so it sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things to do. Because I can tell
Yes.
you in 20 different ways a feature that I want, but a developer, I bet my life on it, would understand something completely different if you don't have an effective communication, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Like, it could be the best developer in the world, the best one, but if he is not able to communicate his idea, it could be entirely taken in a different way, and it would be hard to do now. This is gonna be unfortunately a curveball, but bear with me.
Okay.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, right? I'm gonna put
Okay.
my Cuban Latin American hat.
Okay. Good.
So
Good.
one
Let's see.
one could argue that if we look at America as a whole, there's only, well, let's say main two countries that speak English: United States and Canada. Maybe a couple more in South America. I believe Guyana is another one, and Belize. But if we look at the population, we have more Spanish-speaking people in America. So, and the reason why I'm asking this is because when we first entered into the education side, we noticed that yes, English is definitely needed, and you have to. For learning process, we wanted to make it more um, with their native language, because it's their first step into the technology, especially in Kubernetes. That's why we focus so much on like this Hispanic foundation of cloud native, where we talk about the technology but in Spanish, and we bring a Spanish speaking people so they communicate in their language, which is Spanish, exactly the idea, so it's sync on their head. Now, do you, well, first, do you agree on that maybe separation of concept, like English is necessary, but for learning is Spanish? And you could be in disagreement, doesn't matter, it's your opinion. Or do you think there is a different way that we should consider as a whole to like tackle that specific differentiation per se?
Oh, that's actually a curveball. Yeah, it is, and it is. Honestly, it is. And I don't have a consolidated opinion on that, but what I can speak is out of experience. So I have met a lot of people from Germany throughout my life. It's one of the languages that I have proficiency in, and that I had the chance of speaking with them and interacting with their culture since I was a kid. What I'll say about them is that when education is provided to them in English, they provide the education for not only for the language itself. You can learn grammar, you can learn syntaxes, you can learn even verbal communication, and that's great. But what they have done in their educational system in the last 20 to 25 years is that they started inputting subjects that were in English. And let's say now you have theology in English. That's something that, okay, why? I mean, if I have a credo, if I have a belief or a faith, why should I be learning it in a different language? Because that will expand your cultural background in the language. And then they will put mathematics in English and in Spanish. They will put in a specific subjects that will open up your mind, and that happened to me growing up, going to a German school in which we communicated in Spanish on the halls, on the different areas, and that within my teammates we will communicate in Spanish. But then the teachers will come in, and there will be subjects that were in Spanish, but then we will have Sachkunde, which means like biology for them. So we will have biology in German, and we will have math, so Mathematica, and we will have Mathematik, and that was basically the same thing, but they will just teaching us the same in both languages. So For example, something that really changed my life was when my stepfather came into my life when I was 4 years old, 5 years old. We decided that when I turned 10 that we weren't going to speak in Spanish anymore. We were only going to do it in English, and I think that provided much more to me than like a official academical education, and then like watching TV in English, like really permeating myself with the language. So when you say that you put your engineers to learn like code and the structure of the technology in Spanish, and then English is another leg, but it goes separate. I will argue on that in the sense of I love you guys providing the opportunity to learn in their native language, and I think that will stick far more because it will make communication more fluent. But then also I will recommend or assess on that you add another leg to the structure in which they have the same context and the same content being provided in the native language, because that way they can understand the language in a more profound way, and you won't be missing the cultural aspect of the language that I think is what made my career so successful so far in terms of being really young and had a lot of opportunities. The capability to understand the cultural background behind the language and not only speak the language itself.
I love that, and actually, I think that even though that you don't have a consolidated opinion, I think you give me one, which is like it's kind of like just mixing it up a little bit more, and I like it. I might want to try that because the things like it's kind of like it's definitely necessary that the English, for example, which is the universal language, but maybe for those that struggle a little bit more, they have their content available in both. So that is actually a great idea. So I'm going to take it. So that was a
Oh,
great idea.
I hope it works. I mean, and don't take me wrong. I never seek to erase our culture from our companies. So I think that it is really important. But when I go into an organization, the first thing that I do is I change the internal communication to English as well, and that's only because I want them to have the mindset on how to operate as an American company, because we want to compete at the American market. It doesn't have anything to do with erasing the culture. I would never ask, for example, for one of my developers or my salespeople to undergo an accent removal class. That's ridiculous. If you
Oh
have
yeah.
an be proud of that and stick to it. It doesn't have anything to do with cultural barriers. What does have something to do with cultural barriers is not understanding that as Hispanic speaking people, we tend to utilize longer sentences. So we utilize a lot of coordinating nexuses, and we develop sentences that are huge, and Americans hate that. They hate it so much. So for example, that's something that you need to learn: shorter sentences, proper punctuation, and split your content, and speaking less sometimes means more. But that has nothing to do with erasing your culture. It's just understanding how to navigate theirs.
No, absolutely. Less is more. So we not actually. I think that at this point, what I would like to know is because we've been covering so much. We've been covering languages. We've been covering education. You mentioned culture, which, by the way, I'm very curious. I know a little bit because you told me, but of course, the audience may not know. You've been including like the German aspect into it, and I'm pretty sure that they want to know why.
Okay, good. Yeah,
That German part of it comes in.
of course. So, um, many things. So I think I don't, and this may sound naive and may sound kind of romantic or cheesy, but I like to consider myself a citizen of the world. I don't like to put boundaries on people that are exactly. I don't like to put boundaries on people due to their nationality. So when I was growing up, so my father, he's from Argentina. My mother is from Uruguay. My father is from Argentina, from a town called Esperanza. It means hope for those that doesn't speak Spanish. And Esperanza is a town of German people that came from the north of Germany, Schleswig-Holstein, during the crisis when when the German Marco went completely out of value, and you had to actually carry a full basket to the supermarket to buy a bread. So they went to South America, and they found this place in Argentina, and they called it Hope, because what they found there was hope. And that's basically the seeds of my family being German. So my grandmothers, great grandmothers, and her uncles and aunts, they spoke German, and the language in my generation of the family got lost. So when I was a kid, my father decided that it was proper for me to be introduced to the culture a bit more beyond the background that I had and that I could speak a bit of German. They put me into a German school, and that like kind of forged two things: the capability to communicate in the language and the understanding of the culture, but also the discipline aspect of the German culture. I think that something that we can say many things about the German culture that I don't align with, but something that I can never underestimate is their capability to get things done, and that's only discipline. I think that there's no people that are more intelligent than others. There are people that are willing to outwork other people, and Germans are willing to outwork other people, and that's why they are where they are right now, and that's why they underwent through many crises, and they always recover and stay on the top of the hill. So that's the German aspect of my culture. And then my parents divorced when I was like 4 years old. So I had lived in Argentina, I had lived in Uruguay, and now when I'm 6, my stepfather comes into my family, and he's a retired Navy man that spent 3 courses in Iraq, that worked for NASA in search and rescue, that had a broader mind in how he saw life, had lived in 79 countries. So what he did to me is, my father, I would say he's the smartest guy. He taught me how to do a business with applying the less amount of hours possible. Then my mother, she's the ambitious one, and then my stepfather, he is the disciplined guy, but not only the disciplined guy, the guy that values academicization, that values education, and that values showing up. You have to show up. That's the only thing that he always stick to me. So those are the kind of the triangles of culture that I have within me. And I spent some time in Florida, I spent some time in Virginia, I spent some time in Washington throughout my life, and that kind of allowed me to permeate with the culture a bit more. So that's kind of the mix of cultures that I have, the kind of the milkshake of cultures.
I love it. I love it. That's why I wanted to. I was asking you to share, because I believe that people in your life are the ones that shape you the way that you are today.
Absolutely, for good and for wrong. But I mean,
yes. For whatever it is, and actually I think we share the same, because my stepfather is actually also he was in the military back in Cuba, but then here in the US I have few mentors, but the ones that I have, I believe are the best one in the world. I know I'm selfish like that, but one of them is Arian. He was the one who told me how to even get into this US culture. He was one that introduced me to it, one that introduced me to the community side. And then I have another one, Charleston, which is he's not in the Navy, he's actually on the Marines, and he teach me that what you just mentioned, like you need to show up, you need to get it done, you need to have discipline, because you know that in military you have to be disciplined, you don't have any other choice.
No, there's no choice there. Absolutely.
It is or not, it is. You don't have any choice. So, and I that's the reason why I wanted to show you for you to show that part of the story, because it definitely impacts the way that you do business, the way that you bring this discipline also into the ecosystem, and how the outsourcing, how you apply all that to this business that you build, in which I would like you now to bring a little bit and explain a little more what HNdev is. You just explained me a few minutes ago what means HNdev, which I love it. So
Yeah.
what is HNdev, and what is bringing to the market, which is changing the game?
So first of all, everybody deserves to have a great company, and everybody deserves to have great talent on their company. If you have a dream, you should pursue it, and you should pursue it with the most capable people, but also with the most ambitious and the most disciplined people, so you can be damned to success. And that's why I say that everybody deserves to have a nice dev. So that's what HNdevs mean: have a nice dev. And we strive to provide you with the opportunity to have a nice dev. So basically what we do is, staff augmentation, as we spoke earlier, has been around for a lot of years, and a lot of things happen throughout the process. I will say wrongdoings throughout the process that kind of got us a bad rap as an industry, or as a segment of the industry. and I can account for many things. I worked in many studios. I won't ever give names, but what I will say is that I've seen everything. I've seen people like kind of mistapering on CVs, adding experiences that never existed. I can say about people like adding hours that never happened to overbill the clients. I can see that people don't making themselves responsible of international contracts, and all that accumulated created a lack of trust from the markets to actually go and outsource their services, when actually it is a huge competitive advantage. And I think you understand that beyond you, the fact that you're not doing outsourcing, you have a global team and a remote team. And I was just speaking with Samantha and with Daniela, if I don't mistake the names, and that both what they were saying is that they have the capability to work remote, to work globally, and to apply that you put talent over location always. And that I think that's something really important. They really value that, and there's a reason why they really value that. It is because you're not neglecting the fact of their talent due to their location. So what is happening is that a lot of things happen throughout the process, a lot of wrong things, a lot of things that shouldn't have been done in the past, that got us a bad rap. So I would say 2 years ago, working at this industry, and I realized that the biggest pain that I had is how to make these people trust me. I mean, I'm calling them from the other side of the world. I'm going to the location maybe 3 times a year, 1 time a year, 2 times a year, depending on the company, on the budget, on everything. But how can I make them trust me when I actually know that I have something that is great and I can deliver, and that it will impact their business positively? So what came to my mind is, what is happening now is lack of transparency, lack of visibility, and lack of accountability. Those were the 3 biggest problems in the industry. How we can solve that? Well, I knew that I needed to show them that they can trust me. So I need to work those 3 pillars. And I started providing them the talent with Airtables, so they can actually see kind of the fragmented aspects of this talent, have easy access. It was a smoother process, so they would respond better. And then at a certain point in my career, I found these 2 crazy guys, Alejandro and Eduardo, the founders of Alabama Solutions. And I told them, hey guys, I have a dream. And they came and say, hey, whoa, what's that dream? They were looking for somebody that would direct their operations and expansions to the US and internationally, regardless. I mean, UK, Spain, call it whatever you want. And we sat down and we realized that we aligned a lot about discipline, about how we see business and how it should be done, and how accountability is really important. So a man's quote is a man's worth, and that's something that's really important for us as a company, but something really important for us as a team as well. And so basically what we realized is that staff augmentation needed those 3 pillars to be solved. I'll go again: transparency, visibility, and accountability. The only way to do it was to go with a platform. So we should create a full cycle that is all embedded inside a platform. So an end-to-end platform that provides you the visibility of and the transparency and the accountability. The accountability, how do you accomplish that? Solid paperwork, solid contracts, and actually delivering on your word. That's the only way you can create accountability. And we have internal systems for it that we could expand a lot on that, but it's more complex operational elements. But then on the other hand, transparency and visibility, that's what our platform provides. So when you start working with HNdevs, let's say you are looking for a Kubernetes developer engineer that has capability to also understand your user experience for some weird reason, and that's a profile that doesn't really much, but you need that. So I won't judge your necessity. What I'll do is I'll tell you that's a complex necessity, but I'll have the tool to solve it out. So you and he will create an account on HNdevs in which you will input your personal information, and then you will input your company's information. When you do that, you agreed for us to start sourcing metadata from your company, and we start better understanding your company, your culture of Angel as a leader, your company's needs, the profiles of your current development team, and then what you are trying to foster in terms of values within the company. We start bombarding you with data requests, and we understand who you are as a company. We already have metadata of who we are as Alabama Solutions, running this business unit called HNdevs, And we understand that for us to be able to work smoothly, there has to be an alignment of cultures. So we should find somebody that can coexist on both cultures. And the third element of this virtuous triangle is you will open up a position. You will open up a position for a need that you have. Let's call it a 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, or 5 years engagement. Regardless of what you need, we will provide you with the talent, because we're focused on elasticity, and we're focused on quality, and we're focused on speed. So you should be able to match your pressing deadlines, to be able to deliver to your final consumer, and to do it with somebody that you can trust. And that's when we come in. So you open the position at the platform, and instantly I or any person in the leadership team will review that position, and if it's approved, what we will do is we will start bombarding workforce management tools, workforce platforms, and social media with data requests. Let's call it Indeed, Glassdoor, Top12, let's call it Reddit, let's call it Slack channels. And that AI basically will bombard with specific data requests that understand the whole metadata from your company, from my company, and the description of this position. And it will bring us back in 2 to 3 hours 150 to 250 feasible candidates for this position. And that's when the recruitment team goes in. We start like kind of reviewing those CVs and checking like, okay, this really matches the requirement for a client. If it does, we take them to a people and culture evaluation, and the only thing we evaluate there is that they are not crazy. That's the only thing that we evaluate there. So if they're not crazy, they're good to go. We move them forward to a technical assessment in which they actually have to craft code, and they actually have to respond to multiple choice questions. And you would think, multiple choice questions, this is something really binary, really simple. Actually, it's the most difficult part of the process. Because what we do is we don't ask questions that are focused on the technology they will need to craft code on, but are questions in terms of logic. We want to see how they can understand and abstract a complex problem, internalize it, and provide us with a solution to it. And that's when education really hits in. What we have realized throughout the last 6 months is that we ended up approving more candidates that actually went and did a college degree in anything related to a technical aspect, and that can actually have a more solid basis to abstract those problems than the kid that maybe went to a boot camp and learned how to code and then spent 5 or 7 or 10 years on this technology. It could be a great person coding for this technology, but does not have the capability to abstract those complex problems because they didn't undergo those 4 years of more academical and solid education that trialed their capability to make those complex problems simple, which I think is the description of intelligence, making the complex simple. And then what we do is we move them to a technical interview that's always recorded, so our clients can see what was asked on the question and on the questions and the answers of the candidates. That's usually taken by our CTO if it's a really complex position, or the TLs that has the most savviness on the technology we're looking forward to sourcing. And after that, we take them to the communicational evaluation, which is with me, either English, Spanish, or German. And it's not only about syntax and grammar, as I said, is how you make an idea resonate with your audience. So I won't ask you in your experience in cloud technology, why should you go with a monolith instead of a more dynamic infrastructure, and which is the advantage in a monolith and which is the disadvantage on it. I don't care about that because I know you will be able to communicate on that. What I will ask you is, hey, tell me something that happened, a historic event that happens throughout your life, and how do you think that affects society? And I put you a really complex question, but maybe for you it was 9/11. 9/11 changed everything in the US for you, and or changed your relationship with an aunt that you had in the US while being a Latino. So I want to know how you can actually structure that answer to produce sentiment and emotion in me, because the people that we place in is not economical people, but what we account for is for quality. So you should be able to lead a team, you should be able to coach other people, you should be able to transmit an idea on an internal meeting or maybe facing the client's client. So we want to have that aspect covered too. If that's all approved, the last thing that we put on that is we created from 250 candidates, 5 to 10 finalists, And from those finalists, we applied a layer of AI on top of that. That's basically aligned with the metadata and the job description. And that will remove the biases on the decision-making process. So it will give me a score that is from 0 to 100. We will only present candidates that are 80 and above, according to the AI. And the reality behind it is, for a position that we had a while ago, I had my favorite candidate. I'll be honest. I spoke with all of them, and I had my favorite candidate. That doesn't mean that that's the right decision. So now, in a world that is so leveraged by data, why won't we allow to integrate the organical human side of the talent acquisition process and the availability of data that we have to make something more effective? And that's the AI matchmaking tool that we created. And after that, what the client receives is, hey, you have your 5 finalists from 250 that were sourced, and this is what the AI says about them. This is my personal criteria as the person that led the process. You go ahead and you schedule the interview if you want. You can download the CV and share it internally with your team so they can make a decision and deliberate on it. And what you will do is you will say, hey, I'm available to meet this person between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern time. We will make sure to schedule that for you. And on the other hand, if you like the candidate, you hire the candidate, we will bill you on an hourly base. We do full-time only, so 160 hours a month for a minimum of 3 months. And basically, if you need to do a sprint, or if you need to develop a feature that doesn't require somebody to be perm time on your payroll, or either you don't want to put them on your payroll because you hire people, Angela, you know that when you hire people and you put somebody on your payroll, you're actually paying 1.6 of the value of the person you're actually paying for, because of taxes and the risk of getting taxation problems. I mean, when filing, it all becomes chaos. So we eliminate all that from the way. And basically, the last piece of it is accountability. So how do we make ourselves accountable? Through the SLA. We will guarantee that if the asset is not performing, we will shuffle it for you. We will have an account manager from the side of the client reviewing your satisfaction, and a project manager from the side of the developers reviewing their satisfaction. Their KPIs are inversely proportional, so they will have actually to find middle ground and kind of mediate on this process, so both sides are happy, because you don't want to have attrition on your developers, but you want to have a happy client. So it's a delicate margin that we have to work in, and by aligning that, we guaranteed the quality. And then how we guaranteed that your billing is accurate? We have an integration with Harvest on the back end, in which the developers, designers, and project managers actually track the hours that they perform their work with. They can leave notes if the project manager on the client side requires that for them, and we can know what happened in each specific day, in each specific time. And at the end of the day, we won't bill you for what we agreed. So if I agreed with you 160 hours per month for 6 months at a $50 rate, I won't bill you for 160 hours. I will go to the tracking system and see exactly what happened, and it may be that is not 160, it may be 167 because you require OT. We will bill you for that. But if it's 140, I won't be billing you for 160. So you have full visibility of that. You can track it live. You get weekly reports, monthly reports, and you get a final report before you get billed, and you get our invoice. And that way we can guarantee that the process is smooth, is clear, is accountable, and you can actually trust on us to be your to feel that you have an in-house development team, but it's throughout a partner. Does that sound like something appealing? What do you think about it? I mean, I would love your feedback on it.
Well, I had a couple of feedback. The one is I appreciate the work that you do because I used to be a hiring manager back in the days, and the process is not as fun as people think it is. There's a lot of decisions, especially when you don't have no data. It's hard to make decisions, and you're right. Sometimes you have the favorite candidate, but sometimes that favorite candidate is not the one that actually makes more sense for the case. So I used to be hiring manager, and I appreciate what you do. That's my first feedback. The second one is definitely it sounds like you bring a whole complex process into a very simple, straightforward line where I need this. then you start doing the whole process. I can see that I'm gonna get like the first funnel is my 200 candidates, and then at the end I get the 5 to 10, let's say, that really makes it makes the fit that we're looking for. Now, something that you really mentioned that I really like, definitely I want to highlight, is like culture. It's the culture side. It sounds odd because sometimes people are like, what are you doing? Like, you should get the top talent, the one that knows everything. Like, not really.
Sometimes that's not the best.
No, this doesn't always means that is the one that knows all the technical side doesn't always mean is the best one for the culture, because in a company, in today's market, let's put it that way, in economy, and by all means, we're not perfect, right? So we're like any other company, we're always trying to be better every single day. But something that we want to always keep is the culture, because at the end is what really differentiates a company. And if you look at LinkedIn, for example, the ones that stand out are the companies that have an established culture. And that doesn't mean that the culture is always perfect. Like I said, you always have to improve. Sometimes companies drop the culture a little bit because things happen, and then you have to pick
And that
up.
doesn't mean that the culture cannot shift and become something different, and that's valid too. But you should have a core set of values that drives your organization and drives the most important thing, that are the people that make that organization what it is.
Yep, and that's why I appreciate that comment that you said, because even if I'm gonna have someone helping me out for a short period of time, shouldn't impact negatively my culture. And that's something that I want to highlight, because once again, I know that the rest, and by the way, I see that the way that you handle multiple channels of sourcing people, how you bring them together, how you do these evaluations, which I 100% agree with you. Sometimes the most simple test is the hardest one.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you take this type like Gallup test, like they are like just
Yeah.
like click click click, and you're like, what am I doing? But they make you think, because you only have the binary options, like you either get it right or wrong, period. You don't have any other option, but it makes you think. So I agree. I like the fact that you're taking the whole process, and I appreciate that you explain it here. Sometimes it's hard to talk to a company that is able to explain the full process, and that is one of the biggest highlight that I want to give out of your explanation, is that you give the full spectrum. That right there speaks loud about your transparency, because I understand now what you're doing, and it's clear. And if I know I'm getting a candidate, at least I know everything that candidate is going through in order to get to me. So that's what I say. I appreciate the work that you do. That's right there, because that is a lot.
Well, actually, there is a lot of area of opportunity still to develop on how we explain and how we present our product. Because the thing is, what we would like to, you were talking about culture. What we always strive to foster here in terms of culture is that mistake is right. So make as much mistakes as you can in the process. But what we have is a system of really dynamic iteration. So I'll say 4-day sprints. And what we do is we make mistakes dynamically and we correct on top of that. So sometimes it's so difficult to explain what we do, because the features change so much in the last like 7 weeks, or in the last 3 weeks, or in the last like 1 week. We add new features. Just as a reference, I was pitching this on Tuesday, and I had to do a follow-up on the pitch on Friday, and I had 4 new features to show to that person, and he said like, what happened here? So it is what it is, but I'll show you, and I'll show you that it makes sense. So yeah, I appreciate the comment on it. We still have a big area of opportunity to cover on that, but we will strive to always be transparent and communicate what we do efficiently.
And that's it. Once again, that speaks volume, because if you're willing to basically adjust your process to fit new markets or new opportunities, that's actually great. It's harder when you're talking to companies or trying to work, and I'm not talking about only outsourcing, I'm talking in general. When you're trying to talk to a company and there's no flexibility as a consumer, let's put it that way, I'm going to put myself as a consumer. It's hard, because you said it, like, man, everything changed so fast right now. Like, whatever you think it is today, LLMs, I bet you in few months, maybe a year, probably we won't be even caring about LLMs anymore. We will be caring about something even better. So it's
Yeah, of course.
so we need to be able to
But during
adapt.
those 6 months, there's always the chance that a new GPT comes in that actually kills parts of my business or enhance it. So I should be always looking out for that.
Yeah, that's what makes it exciting, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a roller coaster of emotions, that's for sure.
Hey,
Absolutely.
so thank you for sharing that. And I usually have these two questions when I'm getting toward the end of the show, and this has been awesome. Thank you for everything
No
you've
problem.
been sharing,
You're
because
making
it,
these ideas, yeah.
we've been covering a lot, right? Now, I like to make our show based on humans. I know that we're in the AI world, but I still appreciate and love human more than anything else in the world, because that's what makes us the best race in the world, in the galactic. So it's
Yeah,
huge.
absolutely.
And so I would like to ask you a couple of questions. One is, what is an event in your life or something that happened in your life that makes you the hands of today? What impact you to make you that? And the
Oof.
second
I
question,
have that one for sure, yeah.
and the second question is what it would be the advice that you would give to anyone also entering in this new world, like outsourcing in talent market? You can direct your advice to whoever you want, but what would be that one advice?
I think those are two great questions, and why I say that is because my answer will cover both. I think in one whole structure, uh,
Perfect.
yeah, and I think that those questions kind of go around. So I was talking with somebody the other day, and I was talking about how inflection points in life determine who you will be, and sometimes people are more defined by pain than happiness or success. And I think that the best advices comes from the darkest places. So sometimes in life, or at least that's my personal experience. And when I say dark, I don't mean like sad or like terrible or tragic. What I mean is the moment in your life where you are challenged the most, and you need to show up, as we were saying. So for that, yesterday I was sitting at, because I expected a question like this, honestly, and and I run some numbers. So when let's go back to that. So I'll circle back to that, but first thing is, so I had a life in which I lived in a really quote unquote poor situation, in a really a privileged situation, and that went as a roller coaster throughout my life. So when I was 2 3 years old, my father was the head of operations for what now became Mercado Libre. So the situation in the in at house was great, and I had everything that I could ever expect as a kid. They Although I had a really hostile environment at home, that also is something that forced me. But economically speaking, I had the structure to be whatever I wanted to be in life. Then my parents were divorced. My father took some wrong decisions. Gambling was his poison, sorry, and that kind of shaped the future of our family. And we went kind of in this roller coaster. My mother fought a lot to get us along, and after the way my father redeemed himself. But that kind of this situation of going kind of in this roller coaster made me who I am now. That's the first thing, but it's not the inflection point. So my stepfather comes to my life, and I again get into a life of privilege in which I didn't basically needed to work. I didn't need to do anything to have the future that I wanted. I could just like stay at home, go to college, don't work, get a master's degree without working, and then go to the market. What I decided when I was 18 years old, due to two reasons, is that I wanted to go and live by myself. So I became independent with 18 years old. That's something that may be crazy in the US. It's not that crazy in South America. But yeah, I decided to go independent, and for two reasons. One, I was young and naive, out of love, that person wasn't accepted at home. So I said, I'm gonna go and live my life with her. This is gonna be eternal. That doesn't happen like that normally. So the first thing. Second thing was that I wanted to live by my own rules and understand that due to the sweat of my forehead, what could I actually achieve? Because I lived with that imposter syndrome that I had a lot, but nothing of that was mine actually. So I decided to move from like the best part of town, the best house of the town, to actually a residency in which I had a room that was no more than, let's put it in feet, maybe I'll say 9.5 feet or 9 feet for like 4 feet, and one bed, one closet, and like a desk. That was the only thing that was inside the room. It was a iron made roof. Like when it rained, it truly rained, and it dripped through the structures, and I was actually sleeping there. And I learned what really cold is and what really cold was. I mean, I haven't ever experienced cold like that in my whole life, like being in your bed, having water dripping on your forehead, in your back, and I had like 7 sweaters put on, and it was unbearable. The windows were broken, everything, like the door had holes in it. It was all rusty, and there wasn't any connection to the kitchen with a roof on it, neither to the bathroom. So I had to go with an umbrella to the bathroom, and I had to use an umbrella to bring the food from the kitchen to my room to actually be able to eat, and then like go back to the kitchen. So it was a drastic change in my life, and that determined me to be who I was going to be at the end. So basically, I decided that first of all, I don't want to live like this ever again in my whole life. This situation's gotta change and will change really fast. I put that as a key aspect on my life, and I was just 18 years old. So first thing that I did is the only thing that I don't know how to do anything, but I was really strong because I played rugby. I was like 200 pounds, like solid muscles. So I'll go to construction, and I started working in construction for like 6 months, 7 months, and then it's the first approach that I had to hourly rates. So I realized that the people that were welding, the welders, actually made almost double the salary that I was doing. So during the lunch time, that was only 30 minutes, everybody was going for lunch and actually eating. What I was doing is I was hiding behind the structures that we were working at, grabbing the tools and actually teach myself how to weld and how to become a welder, so I could actually make double amount of money with that. That was the first step. Then one day I was with my city cleaning a brushes that I killed, weld an iron structure. I got a call from a company that I applied for, and that was my first step. And I realized that I could learn English, but I didn't have any experience. So I also people better than me, and in 3 months I became the best salesman in the region, so that's America. In 9 months I became a coach, and in like 14 months I became supervisor. 15 months I became sales operation manager for the whole sales operation company, working for Women for sales support. But that was the inflection point in my life. Yesterday I sat down and I took a look at the real numbers, and that's when the advice for the younger generation started. You will suck until you don't suck anymore. And when I say that, what I mean is first 6 months working at that company, first 8 months, working B2C sales, I made 20,160 calls. At that time, it took me all that to not suck anymore and to actually get a high position in the company that would propel my career. After that, 2 years after that, I decided to go into B2B sales to this crazy British company. Can you guys hear me, bro?
Yeah. Now we can hear better. So something it was happening with your I think with the AirPods. But I think we're good now.
It's good now. So what I was saying, that first 8 months I made 20,160 calls. That's what took for me to don't suck anymore on the skill, and that I learned the craft. But then when I decided to jump into B2B sales, I started from the bottom again, from being kind of the king at the organization, started from the bottom again, and realized that I was really, really, really bad at doing that. And it took me to understand how to sell B2B 7,560 calls to be able to make it 6 months, 7,560 calls. That's when I realized that I actually could sell B2B. And then I got laid off, because that happens in sales. Like, company strength, you get laid off. I got laid off like twice. Got into tech because I realized that what I liked the most when selling fintech was actually the tech part, not the solution itself. And I started sucking again. I was really bad at it again. I didn't know anything about technology. I was just a salesman. It took me 2 years to actually understand how to sell technology, how to sell product, custom product development, how to sell POC, AI POC, how to sell staff augmentation. And what I learned out of that process is that you will suck enough until one day you won't suck anymore. And the only thing you can do every day is show up. That's the difference between the people that make it and doesn't make it. While in school, I wasn't the smartest kid, but I was always there to outwork everybody. And that's the same philosophy I applied throughout my career. I wasn't the best salesman, B2C. I wasn't the best sales coach, the best supervisor. I wasn't the best B2B salespeople. I think I'm not the best director now of sales, but what I know I am is I'm the most persistent guy, and I will show up 16 hours a day, every day, to make myself the best version of myself. So the discipline and the persistency, I think, is the advice that I will give to somebody pursuing a career in sales or in any aspect of life. Anything that you want, you can achieve if you show up every day and do what you have to actually do. I think that's the advice, and that's what I learned throughout this process. And I want to throw you a question now. After I told you about my history, my personal history, how old do you think I am?
Well, that's not fair, because I think I know. So
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know exactly the exact same age, but I know that you are for the 25 years old, give or take, no more than that. I believe.
Give or take. Good. So
yeah, plus 2 minus 2.
Good. So the fact that I started working with 18 years old make me now a senior in my profession, but I'm actually 23, going 24 now. There you go. You were close. But the thing is, what I try to transmit with that is that you're never young to start, you're never late to start, and nobody can tell you that you don't have the experience, or you don't know enough, or you're too young for this, or you have to undergo a curve before you get to where you want to go. Yes, you will have to undergo a curve. Still show up every day, and eventually you're going to have that breakthrough that is going to change your life forever.
And I agree. And if I could, and you allow me, I would like to highlight something on you, which is called grit. So it's that thing that people have inside that I would suggest that people never lose, because that's what makes you continue. Like all those, they show up, the consistency, the transparency, like the outwork people, it always have, because there's a great inside people that actually make that happen. And I want to highlight that in you, because once again, what today we're having is a great conversation in a podcast, sharing your story, but everything happened because you came to our booth without having anything to do with us, and introduced yourself and told me, I want to talk to you, let's talk. And we had that nice conversation, we exchanged some idea, we even took a picture, like right there, like actually I like that, because you left and come back and say we should take a picture. That is something that definitely and stuck with me, by the way. I learned that from you. Like I want to share that, like, which is also goes back to the point about age. Like age means nothing unless you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is make it happen, right? So, I'm a 37-year-old that learned something from a 23-year-old, and I'm perfectly happy with that. And I'm glad that happened, because I learned that from you. I learned that why not taking a picture with someone? Why not? You met it right now, yes, but why not taking a picture? Why not showing that to the world? So, and I learned that from you, and that's something that I do want to highlight, that you had that grit. And I'm hoping that this today shows basically to everyone that is listening to have that grit. Find it, whatever it is, just find
Whatever it is, just find that great. Yeah, I appreciate the comment and I appreciate the compliment, and I think it was great meeting you both guys and having this instance. And if you would allow me, is I would like to close with something that I think is really important. So when I was 5 years old, I think, my step grandmother gave me her first gift. So she's a really smart woman, PhD in child psychology, and graduated from Harvard. So it's a really smart woman. And she gave me this book that I quite don't remember the name, but I think was something like "If I Found a Wistful Unicorn" or something like that, by Anne Ashford. And that there was a phrase on that, and I highly recommend if there are parents listening to it, just buy that book for your kid. It's outstanding. But what it talks is about, it seems to be talking about love, but it doesn't talk about love. It talks about commitment. It talks about commitment to something greater than yourself, and regardless of what the world shows you back, you still have to show up and you still have to commit. And a phrase that really stuck with me is that is on the book on the last page is, "If all that I would want to do was to sit down and talk to you, would you listen?" And the answer to that sometimes will be no. Most of the time will be no, but you still have to show up. That's, I think, the biggest reflection that I got out of that book as a kid, and I carried it up throughout my whole life.
Done. And with that phrase, we close this chapter. Thank you, everyone. I think that's the best closing that we can ever find. And looking forward to the next one. I think we're gonna have you around again here and talk about more stuff that you're gonna be doing in life. All right.
I hope we do. It was a pleasure, and thank you, Samantha and Daniela, if I don't mistaken. They were great with me as I first came, introducing themselves, and thank you, Angel, for this conversation. It was great. It's always good to unpack great ideas with people that may have different opinions but see life through the same lens, which is creating something great for the future generations to come. So thank you for doing that for the Latin American community, and it's just a shout out for all the people in Latin America trying to push their ideas forward and to push their careers up and help their families in the process. Just show up. Okay, thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in today. We hope you found this podcast episode informative, engaging, and entertaining. We can't wait for you to join us again for our next episode. Until then, keep exploring, learning, and making extraordinary things happen.